It's been a dream start to the season for Nottingham, undefeated so far, but if there's any team that's set to spoil that, it's Wimbledon. The entire starting 11 has very high attributes for an amateur league side, and several skill moves to further scare us. Still, they haven't defeated us until they actually defeat us, so let's go out there and see if we can get a result. My usual kick-off strategy was highly unlikely to result in a goal even if Challenger hadn't rolled a nat 1, but instead of counter-attacking, Wimbledon do this. Wow, Wimbledon, really? Wimbledon are playing for the 0-0 draw. And the thing about holding the ball up for as long as this is that it only takes one or two bad rolls for things to completely unravel. And that's exactly what happens to Wimbledon here as Challenger walks in and has a one-on-one shot. Unfortunately, the keeper is way too good for it and it goes out for a corner. And then on the ensuing cross, the cross is accurate but Challenger gets shoved out of position before he can get his head to it. And with that, we move forward to the second half now, where Wimbledon decides that they actually want to attack. With the accuracy of their left wing, any shot he takes has a good chance of going in, but not this time as the three-man block once again comes through for us. He actually takes two such shots, the second of which being getting thwarted by a nat 1 roll. They did not get another good chance for the rest of the game, and in fact we had a very slim chance of scoring right at the end. Do I loft it up to Willen or just pass it low to Challenger? I think I'll pass it low to Challenger. It doesn't work. And we'll just win the ball again to get some more EXP. And we've come away 0-0 because Wimbledon were far too passive. I'm making an adjustment to the way I house rule my coaching hires, and the new rules can be found in the video description. For now, I'm taking a forwards coach. I don't expect to put too many more points in that category, however, in the future, as we climb up the leagues, the ability for forwards to score becomes more reliant on skills than attributes. Next order of business, I don't actually have enough money to renew all of the contracts I would want to renew. I'm going to have to sell someone to acquire the funds, and since I have a relative abundance of midfielders, the man of many names, Cook, ends up on the chopping block. Northampton Town wants all of my players, apparently. They don't even care. They just want... if they exist, they want him. However, I'm not going to use all of that money right away, as I need to keep in mind the January window when more contracts will be up for renewal, and keep some money to make an emergency purchase on the transfer list, because our roster is stretched thin right now. And now we've got a double header against MK Dons. This first game is the league fixture, and then we do it all again for the second leg of the cup. We've already beaten this team once, let's see if we can do it again. But despite MK Dons coming close a couple of times, the first half was a scoreless affair, so I'm going to jump straight ahead to the second half where, as is often the case when I kick off, Challenger is in position to score. Yay! Well, against the run of play somewhat, Challenger has managed to pick up another goal. Later on in the game, one goal would become two as this clearance out would fall back onto our feet, and then the shot that resulted in it was more of a punt and hope than anything else, but managed to thread its way through the defense. That's the scoreline that stood for the remainder of the game, so we come out of here with another 3 competition points. We have specializations to deal with after the match. First off, Popejoy becoming a universal defender, though in hindsight I think I would have made a second CD to have one CD covering each flank that forwards like to dribble to off the kickoff. But what's done is done. What's more important long term is Scrag. Moment of truth for our forward. And it turns out to be a big moment as we unearth a forward who can learn the coveted cannon shot rainbow feint combo. Whilst Willen could theoretically learn this combo too, he is more likely than not to retire before truly realizing his potential. Scrag, on the other hand, doesn't have to worry about that for a very long time. I decided to take cannon shot first as we do still have Challenger working on rainbow feint, but I do want to get both skills on this guy sooner rather than later. We come into the second leg of our cup tie with a 1-goal advantage and have still yet to lose a game this season, so on paper we should be safe. And as we pick up the action in the first half, you'll see that MK Dons is busy holding the ball up in the backfield rather than attacking, despite the fact that they still trail this cup fixture by a goal, giving them even less time to even equalise, let alone win. However, we are unable to win the ball off of them throughout this exchange, and towards the end of the half, they have at their midfielder long pass it to Schiefer, who then uses his nutmeg skill to get in behind the defence, which gives him the accuracy boost necessary to get the ball past Scrimgeour and level the scoring going into half-time. It seems I haven't quite gotten the hang of how the game pathfinds passes and henceforth whether or not players can block said passes, because for this pass and the pass you saw that led to the goal, the ball went through Bag's tile, but the game didn't count it as having actually gone through his tile. And since defensive midfielders can only block regular passes across adjacent tiles, not skills, it resulted in me getting burned, which is especially unfortunate as I have not been able to rectify the scoreline in this second half. I mean, he can claim the ball, but he's not in range to pass it. There is no extra time in football tactics, so we're going straight to the penalty shootout. For our kick, we can choose any one of 6 zones to kick the ball to. If we choose bottom centre, the shot is guaranteed to be on target, but because of this, the AI goalkeeper tends to prefer to stay put, incentivising the player to instead try to paint the corners. Of course, painting the corners carries a risk of missing, which is exactly what happens, and MK Dons is going to turn around and take a 1-0 lead. In fact, the second kick also goes wide, so it looks like the RNG has finally come to collect on our debt, but MK Dons does give us an out. It's only 1-0 going into the third kick. We finally get a shot on target and score with our third kick of the shootout, and when MK subsequently misses yet another penalty, it makes me question if the percentages on screen are actually correct, because penalties in this game are supposed to be a test of a player's control, and since we're in the amateur league, everyone's control is relatively low. With that being said, we are dealing with a small sample size here, and there hasn't been another miss in the shootout since. It is now 2-2 going into the all-important final kicks. Oh, how did he manage that? It's all gone horribly wrong. We take our first loss of the season, no cup run for us, and now there's nothing left to do but simulate several months of football that we're not involved in. After receiving 2 16-year-old prospects in the last 2 windows from the Youth Academy, getting a 19-year-old now is somewhat of a letdown. Nonetheless, we must make the most of him, as our defensive line is old and will need replacing sooner rather than later. The winter break did allow our team to learn some more skills, with more in the pipeline relatively soon. Halfway through the season, we are 3rd in the table, 5 points clear of 4th, and we are the only team to have taken points off of Wimbledon or so far. Elsewhere, Tottenham Hotspur have a small cushion in the Premier League, whilst the teams who promoted from the First League last season are struggling, whilst the Premier League teams who relegated are dominating the First League. It may take a while for the disparity between these 2 leagues to sort themselves out. And in the lower leagues, Derby County have a commanding lead in the 2nd, and Barnsley are undefeated but with a slim cushion in the 3rd. They still have a defender taking the goalkeeping duties. You'd think they would have done something about that by now, but no. This gives us a good chance to come away with 3 points again if we can dodge a bullet down the other end. The left midfielder sprints into position and forces Scrimgeour to make a save. He actually manages to get another good shot later on as a lofted pass falls into his feet with not many blockers between him and the keeper, but another save. And when we manage to defend the follow-up corner successfully, we enter the half 0-0, so we go to the second half. I know Challenger has the better chance of scoring overall, but I thought this was a big chance to use Willen's cannon shot since they've got no one to cover it. Oh wait, no, the skills are unavailable. I forgot all about that. Oh well, let's just see what he can do anyway. He's still going to score regardless. But Oxford wasn't going to let us have the 3 points without a fight. A layoff pass to Bird set him up for a score. I had subbed in Athill on that flank at half time to give him experience, but this exposed me and Scrimgeour was unable to come up with a save. 1-1, but now I've got the kickoff, and sometimes when the opponent doesn't have a goalkeeper, there's just nothing they can do about a man named Challenger. However, Oxford's outfield remains formidable and it continues to apply pressure on our defence. Another corner kick here, but our defence is up to the task of pushing the players out of position. A tackle comes in, they have the ball in the box, but we're able to tackle it back and get it out of danger, but only for a couple of turns. Their other winger gets the ball, gets into position to shoot, but no. Scrimgeour is going to come up with the save and we're going to escape 2-1. We now have a proper sweeper in Goldsmith and he's about to learn the reaction talent too, but since he's only 32 this is really more of a stopgap than anything else. Perhaps Athill will become the long-term sweeper once we build him up. Our last game of the episode is at home against Doncaster Rovers, who are rolling out with a very defensive lineup. On an unrelated note, it is snowing, creating a huge contrast in visuals as well as a gameplay effect that I will touch upon later. But first, our attempt to score off the kickoff. Challenger gets it past the defense but not past the keeper. However, this does result in a corner kick, so now I can push Trivet up now that he has head play, with Bag dropping back to fill in the gap he leaves. With head play, you can connect on a cross from outside of the box. However, in this case, it's all for naught as the cross itself was kicked straight into touch. So anyway, the effect of the snow on gameplay is that skills become more difficult to execute in the inclement weather, which helps us out here as their level 3 slide tackler fails on all 3 rolls. They have to bring another slide tackler over to actually make the tackle, by which point they're out of action points to do what they wanted to do with the ball. Neither team had a serious chance of scoring for the remainder of the half, so let's jump to the second, where a lofted pass ends up in the corner of the pitch and the forward decides to hold it. And hold it. And hold it. And yeah, you get the idea. Eventually, after several turns of this stalemate, and they're going to back pass.
The heck?
He spent so long that he only had a shooting stat of 7, so he didn't even want to try and shoot. Perhaps the AI was right to be paranoid about a counter-attack, for this back pass does allow Scrag to come in and make a tackle, but his pass to Challenger is cut out, meaning 0-0 is indeed the final score of this match. Hutchinson now is going to become a left midfielder. He'll be able to press for 3 and sprint along the flank, so it gives me options in both offense and defense. Whilst we did lose in the cup, we have managed to remain unbeaten in the league in this part, and are now just 5 games away from an early promotion to the 3rd league. I'm hoping to get the next part out relatively quickly. Until then, thank you.